Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Thursday, January 29th. We are one day removed from big tech earnings, which officially started yesterday. We have a lot to talk about in regards to those tech earnings. You had Meta, you had Microsoft, you had Tesla, you had a lot of other companies that reported as well. Including ServiceNow, IBM, Lam Research, a bunch of different companies in the software and semi space that we will talk about and go through. Some of their stocks went up, some of their stocks didn't go up. You also had a lot of earnings this morning: SAP, Caterpillar, Lockheed Martin, MasterCard, Altria Group, Blackstone. I mean, there are many companies that have reported, and we'll be talking about a variety of all those companies that have reported later today. Now, the other thing that has been happening over the past couple of hours is the rally in precious metals, which has not really slowed down. If you take a look at gold and silver, I don't really have the words anymore to describe this. Gold went from 5,200 to 5,500. In 5 hours last night. Silver went from 110 to 120, basically. We're at 119.44. We'll go through some of the stuff happening with gold and silver, but it is quite incredible to see how this is playing out. Yes, COPEX is also moving very highly. Copper passed 620 last night an ounce, and that's why COPEX, which is the copper miner ETF, which I thought I was kind of late on last Friday getting into it, but this thing is up 7% in the pre-markets. I'm still working on that Substack, compiling all the research. The problem is whenever I post it, which hopefully will be by the end of this week, this thing might have already run. So again, it's one of those things where whether it's copper, gold, silver, palladium, platinum, if you're getting into a position, you have to have a lot of long-term conviction, especially for all these new buyers that are coming into gold and silver, and believe this is going a lot higher. But there are some real fundamentals around all of these assets, along with the broader dollar debasing, which is leading to these assets getting some momentum. And so we're going to talk about all that. Now, the big story of the day, which we're going to start off with, Meta, Microsoft, and Tesla. We needed a good start to big tech earnings, and folks, I think we got it. Meta, 9% up in the pre-markets. That is green. Microsoft down 7%. That is red. And then I think Tesla is basically flat right here. Tesla up about 1.5%. So we're going to start off with these big tech earnings, go through them, get some analysis in there for everyone who joined us yesterday on the close. Tanner, Jose, myself, Sam, and Neil. Hopefully people enjoyed it. It was fun covering those results. I think the majority of us in that chat were Meta shareholders. I mean, definitely we had some Tesla people there. We had very few Microsoft people here, but it was almost like I think 70% of us had at least some, either we were curious about Meta or we have some money in Meta. And it's really cool when the majority of the people watching are excited about one name, and then that name actually really does perform. And boy, did Meta absolutely did perform. So we're gonna get started and talk about all those different headlines and go through the earnings. And then we'll see today if we can continue. We'll have Apple after the bell. And hopefully Apple can continue gaining even more of this momentum. The rare earths, real quick, the reason that one is getting hit, or the reason those stocks are getting hit, Trump put out a statement last night, or the White House put out some statement last night that basically said we are not going to have a price floor on these rare earth companies. Now, MP came out and they said this is not exactly true. We still have the same agreement we had with the Department of War. USAR right there, you can see down about 8%, MP down about 3%. All of them took a little bit of a hit. I don't know if these are buy the dips, because I think there's lack of clarity around how the White House is positioning themselves around the rare earth companies based on that Reuters report. I can understand why these stocks are down, but I don't fully know if that means it's an easy buy the dip, especially because all of them that are down have still run a lot over the past couple of weeks. CRML, that's also down 6%. It was down 6% yesterday. So I would be a little hesitant to buy the dip on those. But if you have been waiting for a dip, then today is one of the days where you got that dip. All right, let's get started. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get started with Meta and get into it. That's the first one that we have to begin the show with. 731, the stock hit 740 yesterday before retracing a little bit to 715, and now we're at 731. It looks like this stock is going to go higher even from these levels, and the reason we are going to go higher is because, well, Zuck's executed. Zuck's executed. But it wasn't just execution. It was a certain level of execution in relationship to what the street expected, which is why we have this momentum. 59.9 billion of revenue. That's up 24% year over year. 888 of EPS. That's up 11% year over year. CapEx guidance was 115 to 135 billion. Pretty massive. Ad impressions were up 14% year over year, and the average price per ad was up 10% year over year. Now, what is the actual reason for why Meta stock is up right now? The street was expecting guidance of 20% growth. They guided for 26 to 30% growth. That is the simple reason for why this stock is moving higher. When you are a company at the scale of Meta, basically pushing $2 trillion, and you can guide for 30% growth, you're going to win. It's that simple. You are going to win. Now, the CapEx numbers are very aggressive at 135 billion of CapEx guidance. It almost seems like the street was ready for it, but they just needed a little bit of cushion to those numbers. And the cushion was that they're going to grow revenues at 30%. And the expense guidance was also pretty aggressive at 169 billion is basically what they guided for. I mean, it's the highest amount of expenses they've ever had in history. But if the revenue is growing faster than the expenses at a pretty staggering rate, then they're going to win. Take a look at this chart right here. Meta did $116 billion in cash from operations. I mean, this is just like, these are funny numbers at this point. And the stock was trading below 600, which was at a forward PE of 18 times 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, for those that went heavy on that dip, you deserve to really get the benefit of taking advantage of that dip. And I think the market's going to continue to give the benefit today. Now, could there be some reasons why this thing sells off today? Sure. There's a bunch of different macro stuff going on, but those earnings, it's like, you can't really point to anything other than, my goodness, this is a company that is growing at a level that we have not seen. Now, on the call itself, if you were listening to the call, the majority of the call was Zuck's talking about generative AI advertising experiences and how they can make that better. He did not mention that the whole Meta Compute 100 gigawatts of scale that they're trying to build out is to sell to other businesses. He was very explicit, like that we need the compute and we're going to be using it. He also was explicit and said, I'm not going to tell you guys a bunch of new things that we're working on because they're not fully developed ideas yet, and I don't want to put that out there at this moment. And the street still was like, you know what? The fact that you're growing at 30%, we kind of don't need you to give us any of these other things that we wanted on the last call. I mean, you're growing at 30% at a $2 trillion company. Yeah, we're good. You grew DAUs or daily active people at 7%. Somehow there's more people on the planet to put on this Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp platform. Yeah, the growth is enough. And I think that's the story of the day for Meta. The growth should be enough. Is there a world in the next couple of months where the growth is not enough and the street's looking for more and there's this AI CapEx narrative? Sure. But if the CapEx that is being spent is digested and the output is better ads to the tune of 30% compounding on a $200 billion revenue per year company, you're going to get the stock to go higher, regardless of what the narratives are. And I think that's the re-rating that you're seeing right here on Meta stock today. Dan Ives raised it to $900. Ongoing investments across the business, including the infusion of AI capabilities across the company's ad stack and content recommendation engines, are already driving tangible benefits for the core advertising segment. Raises the price target here to $900 on the day. They got a couple other price targets as well across the board. I think one of them got up to $1,200, but I think you're going to get a lot more price targets throughout the entire day as we see the street realize that this was just one of the most incredible quarters for Meta that they've had in history. So, look, they deserve it. They deserve it. And I am a happy Meta shareholder today. I think a lot of people should be happy Meta shareholders. I want to see how high this can go. I think today's a prime candidate for selling calls as well. I mean, if this thing gaps up to like 740, 750, maybe you sell a $800 call. It's still pretty far out of the money. You still can get some good premium. So, we're going to see when the market opens if this dumps or if this keeps going. But given the pre-market momentum, this was already at 715. The fact that it's at 730 means the buyers are coming in, and they're coming in with momentum. And again, it's hard to not re-rate this company now that it's going to be trading at 27 times earnings versus 22 times earnings. Like, that's not the most expensive company in the world, given they're growing faster than every other Mag 7 outside of NVIDIA. Meta is growing faster than every other Mag 7 on the top line, and I think on the bottom line, quite frankly, outside of NVIDIA, which is pretty incredible. So, that's what we got on Meta and Mr. Zuck. So let's talk about Microsoft, because I think this is the real story that people are worried about. Let me just say this real quick. I have not bought Microsoft, but I was looking through the numbers last night, and that was when Microsoft was at $455. Now it's at $448. Yes, Meta is bullish for Nebius as well. I think it's bullish for all the neo clouds, given how much capex they're ready to spend. I think we got to pull the trigger on Microsoft if we see 440 and below. And here's my philosophy on pulling the trigger on Microsoft. If you're buying Microsoft, you're not really buying it for capital appreciation in the short term. It's almost like you're buying the S&P 500. You're trusting that the company is so unbelievably well run and that the earnings will eventually continue to compound the way they are compounding, that you're taking advantage of what it's basically been an 8-month lull period for Microsoft on an additional 8 to 9% dip after being down 20% from the highs that it was at back in July. And I think there's a lot of risks for sure based on what we have on this earnings. Some of those risks to me seem a bit not as serious, but they are indeed risks. And those risks, let's talk about them. These are the reasons why Microsoft are down today. So first of all, what were the top line results? They were pretty phenomenal. Net income's growing at 60% year over year at 38.5 billion, 81.3 billion of revenue, 81.3 billion of revenue. We get to live in a time where we see companies put up 81 billion every 90 days. I mean, this is just incredible to see. 414 of EPS, that's up 24% year over year, and Azure and Intelligent Cloud revenue crossed $50 billion. Microsoft is now cheaper than Google on a trailing 12 months PE and a forward PE basis. Now, there's some elements of the business where it's not growing as fast as Google, but it's still growing pretty damn fast at 17% top line. And I think their cloud business is growing a little bit faster than Google within like a couple of percentage points. It's cheaper than Google, which then begs the question, why is it down today? I think the main reason right here is because they guided for $625 billion of remaining performance obligations, which is a massive number. That number is up 230% year over year. The problem is 45% of that 625 billion is coming from OpenAI. Now, is that really a reason for this stock to be down 7% this month? I don't think so. I mean, realistically, like Microsoft is not Oracle. Oracle can get a promise by OpenAI for 300 billion. And if it doesn't happen, like, yeah, Oracle deserves to go down. But Microsoft getting that promise, I think, should mean more than Oracle, given Microsoft is one of OpenAI's largest investors. And like, you know, Satya has a really good relationship with Sam Altman. Number two, I would imagine that the type of quality of revenue OpenAI is committing to pay Microsoft is different than the data center build out cloud computing revenue to an extent that they're paying for Oracle. You know, maybe it's not that different, but it feels like it should be a little bit different just given the nature of those two companies and how different they are. And that should mean that this RPO is real. But the street has some really ugly sentiment on OpenAI. And I think I quite literally think this and a little bit of the CapEx numbers being lighter than expected on their sequential earnings for Microsoft yesterday might have been the reason the stock is down 7%. But even then, it's like, wait a second, 7% on a company that's already been down 20% over the past 7 months. It just feels aggressive. Truist reiterated their buy $675 price target. While we believe the stock reaction is due to Azure growth and elevated CapEx, we view 2Q as fundamentally strong beneath the surface. Commercial RPO was up 230% year over year. Azure growth continues to be supply constrained, but management reiterated that demand exceeds available capacity. Very bullish for NVIDIA. And that capacity is allocated through first-party AI products. We continue to view Microsoft as a top-tier, long-term compounder with multiple attractive growth vectors across commercial cloud, M365, Copilot AI platforms, and agentic capabilities. The reason I'm saying I think Microsoft is to buy the dip is because I don't think it rebounds like a Meta does immediately or like a Google does within like a day, 10%. But man, do we not think in a couple of years Microsoft is going to be continuing to hold their ranks as one of the most important companies in the world and one of the biggest companies in the world? I mean, it's still a $3.7 trillion company. And you're getting it at a discount and you're getting it cheaper than Google. So I don't know. You got some people in the banks. Morgan Stanley said, hey, we're removing Microsoft as their top pick. I didn't get the logic on that, but it seems like they might be a bit upset about certain elements of CapEx or RPO growth. I mean, like, there are things to nitpick at. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if it's enough to be as angry as the street is treating it today. Now, the big reason I think Microsoft is also down is because they're guiding for Windows OEM and devices revenue to be low teens percentage growth year over year in Q3, and cautioning that, once again, soaring memory prices could weigh on Windows OEM and server software sales. That could be an issue for the hardware side of the business. Obviously, it could affect some parts of the data center business. But again, I don't know if that's enough for this thing to trade at 28 times earnings, which I'm not saying is the cheapest in the world. It's not like Meta at 18 times earnings, but it's definitely cheaper than some of the other names that are out there for the quality of company you're getting. So let me know in the chat if anyone is buying Microsoft. I mean, if it really gets ugly today, I do think you want to give it a little bit of time. You don't have to go gung ho and just like immediately start buying it. And if this thing starts getting back to, low 440s, high 430s, I don't think it's crazy to buy a little bit more right here. This was the clip I wanted to play by Zucks, by the way, talking about the earnings call. Let's just listen to this real quick, and then we'll get into Tesla as well.
Seeing a major AI acceleration. I expect 2026 to be a year where this wave accelerates even further on several fronts. We're starting to see agents really work. This will unlock the ability to build completely new products and transform how we work. In 25, we rebuilt the foundations of our AI program. Over the coming months, we're going to start shipping our new models and products. I expect our first models will be good, but more importantly, will show the rapid trajectory that we're on. And then I expect us to steadily push the frontier over the course of the year as we continue to release new models.
Headlines today.
That was enough. That was enough to get the street excited. I mean, Nadella said relatively the same thing. It's just Nadella did not put up that type of revenue growth. And as a result of not putting up that type of revenue growth, that is why Meta is getting the premium that they are getting today. Okay, before we talk about Tesla, a couple earnings this morning. Also, it's not my birthday. Thank you for the birthday wishes, but it's not my birthday. SAP is getting destroyed. I don't know if I've ever seen SAP go down 15% in a day. This honestly doesn't make me feel that good about Palantir earnings coming up. As much as I love Palantir, every software name, they're just getting destroyed. And did SAP really have the types of earnings that needs it to be down 15% in a day? I mean, maybe it did, but goodness. Also, ServiceNow had a phenomenal earnings as well yesterday. That stock down 7%. I mean, Palantir is going to have to put up some types of numbers that just make the street undeniably. I mean, Microsoft is seen as one of the biggest SaaS names. I think it's one of the biggest SaaS holdings in IGV, the software ETF. So it's weird, dude. The software names are in a really weird situation. ServiceNow right there, they're guiding for 20% growth, which is a heavy compounding growth company trading at 10 times sales. It's, not some aggressive multiple. This stock down 6%. SAP, I'm looking at the earnings right now. They missed on revenue very slightly. Cloud backlog is up 16% year over year. Fiscal year guide 23 to 24%. Cloud and software, they're guiding for 13%. Their SaaS revenue is up 23% year over year. ERP is up 23% year over year. Cloud revenue up 19% year over year. I mean, what exactly is the street upset about? They missed very slightly on a couple of numbers. I don't know if that's enough to be like, we're dumping SAP. Unless the street is thinking these slight misses are a result of AI commoditizing SAP, which, I mean, maybe it is. I kind of doubt that given how strong and large this company is. But it could be happening. So are you categorizing Palantir as a typical software company? So Palantir is a SaaS company in general, right? They're in the SaaS ETF for IGV. Now, they have been seen as an AI SaaS name, which is why I think they've continued to get the premium. Also, they've grown operating margins and revenue growth at a significantly stronger level than every other SaaS name that's out there. But, I mean, the SaaS names just not being in favor is not good. And so we're going to have to see if the street eventually turns around the sentiment on this. It's kind of reminding me of a couple of the names last year that just had weird overhangs on top of them, and they needed a little bit of space to breathe before they changed. But I don't know. Maybe there's something deeper in these earnings that we got to look at. 15% down on a $300 billion company. I just haven't seen that on SAP in a long time. In a very long time. So that's something we're going to have to watch out for this entire earnings season. Yeah, we haven't seen 199 on SAP since July. It's been a while since we've seen these levels. And we're going to have to see if the street ends up rebounding on this or if it continues to stay down. I think it's because they're seen as a disruptor. They might get treated differently, but I still think Palantir is expensive. Yeah, and, I think we all know it's definitely expensive. If they can just put up the growth to continuously tell the street, look, you think we're a SaaS company. We're proving time and time again, we're not just typical SaaS, and we have the growth numbers to justify it, which is what they've been doing for the past couple quarters. I think that could be enough to keep them afloat. Okay, Tesla, let's talk about it. So we had some really good stuff with Tesla, and we also had some really weird stuff with Tesla. Tesla stock right there at 1.5%. They put up worse earnings per share than 2021. Their revenue growth is down 16% year over year. I don't think anyone expected the numbers to be amazing. Numbers were not amazing. Sorry, revenue growth is down 3% year over year. Vehicle deliveries is down 16% year over year. Adjusted EPS is down 17% year over year. Gross margins at 20%. They are investing $2 billion in XAI, which is good because the shareholders have been waiting for them to invest $2 billion in XAI or just invest anything in XAI. So if you're a Tesla shareholder now, you're going to have a little piece of XAI. But these were the top line numbers. Now, the big things from the call were, honestly, it was one big thing that mattered. It was this headline right here. If you haven't seen it yet, Elon said, we will be stopping Model S and X production and convert the factories in which we were producing S's and X's and turning them into Optimus factories. Two implications of this for Tesla. Number one, I think it's super bullish for the humanoid experience. The fact that Tesla is committing to changing the factory dynamics of two of their cars, which, people are like upset that these cars aren't in production anymore. But from my understanding, most people buy the Model 3 or the Model Y. Like, I've seen very few people with an S or an X. They're a little bit more expensive vehicles. They're not for the average person. So it's like, it makes sense that they're converting from that and they're just focusing on the 3 and the Y. And obviously, if autonomy is the future, the actual production of the car shouldn't be that big of a deal. But it means that they're focusing on the humanoid. And if they're focusing on the humanoid, then bullish, right? Because the humanoid should be one of the greatest products in human history. Elon has said many times this will be bigger than the iPhone. We've all seen how big the iPhone has become by orders of magnitude, which means if that's the case, then Google, that's working on humanoids, you've got a lot of private companies, but it should take the entire industry forward, which should be very good for the broader sector. The weird thing about the call was that, when Elon was asked, all right, so when are humanoids going into production? How much progress have you made on them? He said they're still in the early R&D stage and they haven't really been doing much in the factories yet. I was a bit surprised by that. I didn't expect him to say it. I kind of think he's lying. I kind of think there's more progress than what he's sharing publicly, because I can't imagine that if they're in the R&D stage, they will actually be inside of a customer's home by the end of 2027, which is what he's aiming for. I just think it's very hard to imagine that in 2 years, the robot will be perfect enough, which means the AI will be perfect enough, but not just the AI, because the models are pretty damn good, but the AI at the intersection of the physical manifestation of the application of AI, right? The physical aspect of AI actually being able to do things in the real world. Will that be good enough in 2 years? I mean, maybe it will be, but it's hard to see that right now if they're in the quote unquote R&D stage, or it's hard to even see if they'll be able to start production in a meaningful capacity to start shipping them to people's homes. So I think the Optimus story is going to be a bit longer than expected, but the fact that they're converting an entire factory into just Optimus and literally stopping the production of two other of their biggest cars, Copex going crazy in the pre-market, almost about a touch 100. That to me is bullish for humanoids. And I think that's bullish for the broader humanoid sector as well. And the stock is flat. I mean, look, you can't be the stock trades at 290 times earnings. The fact that the stock is just flat and not going down because there wasn't anything really good in the numbers to be excited about. They do have 40 billion in cash, which is nice. I think they're doing 20 billion of capex next year. So, they will be spending more money, but the fact that the stock is holding on to its premium, I think, is the most important thing. And you got Tesla right there at 437 in the pre-markets. It was at 445 yesterday, so a little bit down from those levels. Silver breaking through 120. My goodness, silver breaking through 120. Microsoft right there, still going down. We got 20 minutes until the market opens, down 7%. And then you got Meta that's holding on to about 10%. I mean, put in the chat, what do you think happens today? Do you think Meta gets dumped, or do you think we see 750 on Meta? It was close last night. And do you think Microsoft recovers? And then, where do you think Tesla goes? It had a little bit of a pump last night, almost got to 450, then it kind of died down. But curious to see what people think about Microsoft and Meta and where this ends up going. For those asking why is copper running, I don't know. I think it's following gold and silver. And gold and silver are going crazy. I think the run you're seeing in copper today is nothing to do with copper itself. I think it has to do with gold and silver. I mean, if gold and silver weren't going as parabolic as they were, which they're still going right in the pre-market, 120.69, that's up 6.4. Gold's getting ready to hit 5,600. It got very close. It was at 55.80. I think all the other precious metals are following it, which is kind of scary, right? Because if gold and silver, put in a bit of a top, at least short term, maybe that changes. But as of now, you're seeing it. So yes, there is a copper shortage. There's a ton of fundamentals behind it. I've been doing a lot of research on it, but I think this move in the pre-market is about gold and silver, unless, someone built a data center yesterday that needs like 1 billion more tons of copper. So like, if that didn't happen overnight, then I think it's following the precious metals, which is crazy. And I think you kind of got to just enjoy the ride right here. The Fed left rates unchanged yesterday. There were two dissents, Governors Waller and Mirren, that wanted a 25 basis point cut. The Fed sees unemployment stabilizing and inflation remaining somewhat elevated. The entire call was a bit weird. Didn't make a lot of sense. And, you know, Jay Powell didn't answer a lot of questions. Now, granted, the journalists were asking him questions that he really didn't have the authority to answer. But, yeah, I mean, there wasn't much to get from the call yesterday other than they think that the labor market is not as bad as we think. Did we get jobless claims this morning? I think we did because it's a Thursday. Let me just confirm. Yeah, 209,000 versus 205,000. Okay, so a little bit worse than expected, 4,000 worse, but still well below the average in which someone would start to think that there are some big issues. And so jobless claims, not too crazy. Now, there were a couple things that Jay Powell did say. He was asked about gold, and this is what he said. I thought it was rather interesting that he made these comments.
Significant price increases we've seen for precious metals.
Don't take much message macroeconomically. The argument can be made it's that we're losing credibility or something. It's simply not the case. If you look at where inflation expectations are, our credibility is right where it needs to be. So we look at those things. We don't get spun up over particular asset price changes, although we do monitor them, of course.
Jay Powell says credibility for the US dollar is not the reason that silver just broke 121 and hit a new all-time high within the last 2 minutes. I think he's wrong about that. I think there is obviously a correlation, even if it's a small correlation, but there is a correlation between the dollar losing 15% over the past year and gold and silver getting the rally that they're getting. Now, here's the most interesting thing I saw last night. And a lot of you guys that have studied Dalio have heard of this argument many times, but I saw this chart. And once you see this chart, it's hard not to see this chart. This is the TLDR of Ray Dalio's argument. Measured in gold, U.S. stocks, which hit 7,000 yesterday on the S&P, are at a 12-year low. Measured in gold, stocks are at a 12-year low. The classic measure of greed and fear suggests that we have had no progress since the great financial crisis. If you look at the S&P 500 relative to gold. Now, you're not going out to McDonald's and, paying for your burger with gold, right? So obviously there's an importance to fiat currency. There's an importance to how we exchange dollars. And, you might not be going to McDonald's and paying with your Bitcoin either, right? That's why the fiat dollar still matters. And that's why your Meta stock going up 7 fiat dollars, if you have 1,000 shares, those 7,000 fiat dollars in your account matters because you can do something with those $7,000. But when you look at it from a historical perspective, it's kind of crazy. Like, if we put our economist hat on, it's like, wait a second, the S&P 500, with all the progress it's done over the past 12 years, has not actually made a new all-time high, even though we've grown earnings and this and that, because we have this thing called a money printer that the Federal Reserve is in charge of. And given how they've debased currencies, and not just the United States, all across the entire world, the dollar denominated in gold. And now, given that gold has had this type of rally, if gold didn't have this type of rally, we wouldn't be saying this. But the fact that gold has massively outperformed the S&P over the past 10 years now, especially over the past 5 months, it really starts to put into perspective what's going on. So from that perspective, what do you do with this information? I think you have a perspective on where the commodities are going and why the world is diversifying from the dollar. But at the end of the day, I don't know how easy it is to just put your entire net worth in gold when you see Meta compounding at 30%. And so I don't think it changes the dynamics of how people are investing in the stock market. If anything, it makes people want to invest in assets that are growing more and take risks with their dollars inside of a thing like a Meta or a Tesla. But it is quite phenomenal to see the run in precious metals. And quite frankly, the fact that the S&P 500 is at its 12-year lows denominated in gold is part of the reason, I think, why people are buying gold. And maybe that's not going to stop anytime soon. So that's what you got in gold and silver. Now, why isn't NVIDIA pumping? I don't know. This thing should be at like $200 after Meta, Microsoft, and Tesla all raised CapEx. Not to mention Google and Amazon are probably going to raise CapEx, and their cloud growth is probably going to be pretty damn good, given Microsoft's basically growing at 39% on cloud. So I don't see how we're going to have any issue with Google and Amazon in any meaningful way. that would be bearish. And I don't know how that wouldn't implicate NVIDIA going higher. There was a headline this morning that Jensen gave a quote to Bloomberg, and he said China still hasn't approved the H200s. I don't know why they keep going back and forth on this H200 thing, but I thought 3 days ago it was approved, and now it's not. Jensen said Beijing still hasn't approved H200 imports, and NVIDIA hasn't received the new H200 orders from Chinese customers yet. The U.S. export license is still being finalized, and Chinese officials have told big tech firms they can prepare orders, but it's up to the Chinese government now. So maybe the stock's down a little bit on the fact that the orders haven't officially reached NVIDIA yet. But eventually, when it comes through, maybe that kind of changes the broader argument here. So that's what we got on NVIDIA. Is the VIX spiking right now? We were up 3% yesterday. The VIX it's up like 4% right now, right? In the pre-markets, that's what I'm seeing. About 3 to 4%. I mean, yeah, volatility is up there. Also, we've got this Iran stuff we haven't talked about. So a lot of reporting last night came out that Trump is getting ready to put a strike on Iran by this weekend. Don't know how accurate that reporting is. It does line up with the poly market. Dude who put $100,000 on Iran getting striked by January 31st, which is in a couple of days. So maybe that also led to gold and silver getting some momentum, just more geopolitical uncertainty. But it also could have been, NVIDIA could be down and the S&P 500 might take a little bit of a breather simply because of not knowing if that's going to play out this weekend. But you do have some reporting that could end up happening. By the way, take a look at this chart right here. This is Microsoft Azure sales annual change, and Meta. As you can see, one is growing significantly faster than the other. That's another reason that kind of explains why Meta's up today and Microsoft is down. Now, the good news for the shutdown is that the shutdown odds have come significantly lower, and the reason for that is because you have Trump and Chuck Schumer who have started to have conversations on making sure there's not going to be some massive shutdown. So the exact quotes is that there is an emerging deal between the Senate Democrats and the White House. House Democrats are not a party to this agreement. This could be fine for now if Johnson can pass the 5-bill package plus DHS funding without Democrats. He may need a rule. If he doesn't, he'll need a lot for a suspension. The odds of a shutdown were 80% yesterday. The odds are now 59%, which is making some progress. And so, I mean, there might be a shot where we don't have to really deal with a big shutdown. I don't think we can afford to deal with a shutdown right now. But yeah, hopefully that is something that is not going to be that big of a deal. Okay, we had a bunch of other earnings today. Let's get into it. Let me know if anyone has any of these names. Let me pull them up right here. Again, SAP, we talked about it. I don't know why that stock is down as much as it is. Kind of following ServiceNow. It's weird that it's taken as big of a hit, but it is. MasterCard, they beat by 12% on EPS. They beat on revenue. EPS is now up. MasterCard right there, 2% in the pre-market. EPS is up 25% year over year. Revenue is up 18% year over year. So MasterCard, pretty good earnings. Then you have Lockheed Martin. They beat by 3%, 580, or they missed by 3%, 580 versus 596 on EPS, 20.3 versus 19.86 billion. They beat on revenue. SoFi earnings are tomorrow. I'll be live early at around 7:30, and we'll get into SoFi earnings. So I'll be alive an hour early. Lockheed Martin's up 3% in the pre-market. Then you had Altria Group. Steve likes this one. They sell cigarettes. 130 versus 132. They missed by 2% on EPS. They beat by 1% on revenue. Nice 6% divvy that they pay. Altria Group is down 4% in the pre-market. So that one getting a little bit of a hit. And then you have the cruise lines that actually had a pretty decent quarter. Revenue came in line. EPS was revenue was a slight miss. EPS came in line. RCL right there, as you can see, that's up 7% in the pre-markets. And you're seeing Carnival Cruise, all the other cruise lines get some more momentum based on Royal Caribbean. You also had Caterpillar. This is seen as another data center play. They beat by 10% on EPS, which is really good. 516 versus 471. Revenue was up 18% year over year. They beat by 8%. Caterpillar stock is up 2% in the pre-market as well. IBM had earnings yesterday. That stock is up 9%. I don't know exactly what they said for them to get that type of momentum, up 7% right here, but they have been one of the biggest dark horse winners over the past 2 years in this AI space. they're also potentially, having some quantum stuff associated with them as well. So, I mean, they beat on the top and the bottom, and the market is giving them a lot more momentum. Southwest, they had earnings yesterday. That stock is up 6%. I believe they beat on the top and the bottom. Did Delta have earnings today? I don't think Delta had earnings today, but Delta's flat right there, 0.38%. Southwest, though, they did have a pretty good earnings. And similar to the other airlines that were reported, that stock is up as well. So those were the main earnings. Today, we're going to have SanDisk and Western Digital. So for those that are taking a shot on memory, by the way, all the memory names pumped last night again as well. Why? Because, I mean, when you heard the CapEx guidance, a lot of that CapEx is going to result in a lot more chips, and a lot of those chips obviously need high bandwidth memory. So, I mean, once again, the commentary from all of these companies continues to be super bullish NVIDIA, but realistically, it's more bullish the memory shortages that we're having right now. And as a result, that's getting more momentum. And this headline came out last night as well, which is absolutely crazy. By the way, there is let me say this real quick. Micron DDR4 RAM prices quadrupled as spot costs soared by 172%. A basic 32 gigabyte DDR4 kit has gone from $47.49 to $263 in less than a year. I mean, when you see a headline like that and then think about it at scale for the overall chips in the data centers, Meta up 10% now, pre-market 737 right here. It obviously gets very, very exciting for the memory names. There is a way to get exposure to the SK Hynix stock if you haven't got exposure, and if you want exposure. EWY. EWY is the iShares South Korea ETF. 20% of this thing is SK Hynix. So, and Samsung. Samsung is the other 18%. So, I mean, for those that don't have like a broker that allows you to get exposure to those two names, now again, if you're buying SK Hynix or Samsung, you could just buy Micron as well. I think all of them are kind of moving in the same way. But if you really wanted to get exposure, I mean, there is a way. You could just buy the South Korea ETF and like 40%, I'll give you the exact number, 26 plus 17, 43% of the entire fund is Samsung and SK Hynix. So there is a world to get a little bit of exposure there via Korea. Why did Amazon go down yesterday? That's a hell of a question. I don't have an answer for you. I think the market genuinely is stupid when it comes to Amazon. I do not understand how this stock is not going higher, not only after their earnings, but by the end of the year. They are getting the benefit of all the advertising tailwinds that Meta talked about because Amazon's a massive advertising platform. Azure had 40% AWS, or Microsoft had 40% Azure growth. I think Amazon is going to crush it with at least 25%, or at least close to 25% AWS growth. Then you've got the robotics tailwind that is on their side. You've got all the little bets that they're working on, and you've got operating margins that should be going higher. Also, they just fired 30,000 people, which is not a good thing, but like that's a lot of money that the company is going to be saving as well. That should be good for margins. So, and they have 20% of Anthropic, which is probably going public by the end of this year. So I think this has to be the biggest no-brainer in the market right now. It's run a little bit from the 220s, but still incredibly disrespected compared to where the stock should probably be. And I think a sleep well at night stock that is not going to cause you too many troubles. Like, I mean, could they say something that gets it to tank on next week's earnings like Microsoft did? Maybe. But they also don't have the OpenAI overhang. They're not going to say, hey, we have $400 billion in RPO and 180 billion of that is OpenAI. Like, they're not going to say that. And if they don't say that, then I think that's going to be relatively decent for Amazon. So yes, I think you need some patience on this one, but I think this one should end up playing out. Just like, you needed patience for Meta. And that patience took about 7 months roundabout, but it ended up paying out with this momentum. What are people doing on Meta? Are people selling today? Are people taking profits? Are people selling calls? I mean, I think we got to wait at least 20 minutes and see how this market opens. I think there's a pump on this thing. I don't think it easily gets dumped. I can see people coming in for a trade who bought it yesterday and are going to take profits. But I don't think it's crazy to see 750 here. I mean, if anything, dude, the stock got cheaper with the growth expectation. So it's almost like, and if the market's not too upset about Zux's necessity to explain the ROI on AI, if they're just like, okay, it's ads, cool, just keep growing it. And Zux is like, all right, just keep letting me do my thing. I mean, maybe it's not the worst buy even after these levels, which is quite incredible. Do you think SoFi will dump after earnings? I hope not. SoFi is starting to piss me off. Like, not really piss me off, but it's annoying, dude. They diluted at 27.50. It's at 24.80. Like, what's going on? I don't know. I think, but all of fintech, I mean, Hood obviously pissing off a lot of people. The stock has been stuck at 103, 104. PayPal, it's about to go below 54. I mean, like, your fintechs have just not been in favor for the past month now. And hopefully SoFi has an earnings that changes stuff, but we're gonna have to see. I do think SoFi's cheap here. I was buying SoFi around this 25 range back in November, so it's not like it's an expensive stock. Nothing has fundamentally changed in the business. It's just people are annoyed at the stock price action. And so hopefully Noto can change that. By the way, Bitcoin right there, 87,000. Your boy Noto was in the White House yesterday, and he was with Donnie T. He was also sitting down with Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, Kevin Hassett, and Nicki Minaj. As you can see right there, Nicki Minaj. There's Noto. You can see him in the back. You got Michael Dell. You got Kevin O'Leary. You got Brad Gerstner. And you got Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj reportedly got the Trump gold card. Apparently, she wasn't an official immigrant. And so she's the first person reportedly to be getting the gold card, which like guarantees immigration. If you pay $5 million, I think they're giving it to her for free. So, I mean, shout out to Nicki. She's now an official citizen in the United States, and that's what you got. So yeah, the point is Noto was there with Trump, and hopefully that'll lead to some more momentum going to earnings. Now, this was the last headline before we get into the market open. We got 2 minutes. This was pretty crazy as well, if this is true. NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Amazon in talks to invest an additional $60 billion into OpenAI at a $730 billion pre-money valuation. I don't know what the hell these companies are seeing in OpenAI. I mean, I think there is one thing that they're seeing. They're seeing revenue coming into their companies if they give money to OpenAI. But somehow Sam Altman keeps cajoling more money coming into this ecosystem. And I just hope for the sake of all of us, it ends up working out. But time will tell. So looks like OpenAI is going to get a deeper valuation, and a lot more of the biggest tech companies are going to continue participating in that valuation. All right, here we go, folks. 20 seconds until the market opens the day after big tech earnings. All eyes are on Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla as we get into this market open. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Thursday, January 29th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Microsoft loses 440, down almost 9%. Meta 739. Let's see if she can break 742.98. That was the high yesterday in the pre-market. 741. It looks like she's going for it. It looks like she's going for it. Meta goes up 10%. Microsoft goes down 9%. Wow, 437 on Microsoft. You're getting a dump on MSFT. You're getting a ton of buyers coming in on Meta. We got to see if this can continue, but that is a trend right now. Amazon goes slightly flat on the day, 242 to red. That's down 0.3%. Micron goes down a little bit. This one gapped up yesterday in the overnight markets. IBM up 7%. Royal Caribbean up 9%. Caterpillar, that's up 2%. MasterCard up 2%. NVIDIA flat. Tesla up 1%. Palantir down. ServiceNow down 10%. This is weird. They did not have an earnings that justified 10%. There's just no way anyone can look at 20% compounded growth and say that deserves to be down 11% today. Maybe 2%, maybe 3%, 11% is a bit ridiculous. SAP down 15%, MP down 5%, CRML down 12%. Again, you had the White House come out and say some stuff about rare earths yesterday in a Reuters report that the market is not really interpreting as friendly. MP came out and refuted it, but nonetheless, the narrative is that rare earths are not getting the type of funding that the street thought they were getting from the White House. That's down 14% on USAR, and those are getting hit. COPEX, that's up 8%, pushing 99 on copper. IREN is down 3%. Nebius is down 2%. Meta, gets a dump from 744 to 733. That was in like less than a couple of seconds. It's only 9:31. It's been a minute since the market opened. 744 to 731. So you had a big dump right there. SoFi trying to push 25. Robinhood goes red. PayPal below 54. Amazon still red on the day. Grab at 452. That's down 0.07. SMCI down 2. Oracle loses 170 for the first time in 7 months. Wow. Oracle getting hit at the same time as Microsoft. Are we about to see the 420s on Microsoft? Are we actually about to see the 420s on Microsoft? I mean, goodness, what is the street upset about? You can nitpick about a lot of things, but Microsoft just went from a $3.6 trillion company to 3.23. That's a lot of market cap. They just lost 300 billion in market cap. That's a little weird for a company that just did 80 billion in revenue. It's a little, it feels like there's a different narrative being put into stock right now for it to get hit this bad. Rubrik, that's down 3%. Zeta, that's down 3%. It's like a SaaS carnage that's going on right now. BM&R, that's down 3%. Rich Tech Robotics, they had that Microsoft deal, but they also diluted yesterday. That's down 8%. You got a lot of stocks going red. ASML actually reversing, which is nice. So some of the semis are going a bit higher. Salesforce, yeah, there's a SaaS carnage today, guys. There is no way in hell Salesforce should be down 7%. Why? Like because of ServiceNow? What? Like this 7% on Salesforce? What is going on here? I understand the street doesn't like it, but what are we talking about? SAP down 16. I mean, maybe Microsoft's down because they're interpreted as the biggest SaaS, which would be the dumbest reason for them to be down right now because they're not the same type of Salesforce or SAP type of SaaS company. And unfortunately, Palantir is going to catch a stray with that as well. Palantir down 2%. Joby did an offering yesterday. That's why Joby's down 16%. So it makes sense why Joby's getting hit. But dude, what the hell is going on? This is incredible. Microsoft loses 430. It's not the government shutdown. That's not it. AMD, is that moving higher? AMD should be moving higher because Meta is spending a lot more CapEx on them. AMD right there, 258. Meta 733. So at least Meta's holding on to its 9%. AMD a big beneficiary of that. Nvidia not getting that same love. Uber, that's up 3% today. I wonder why Uber's up. Maybe Tesla didn't have the best earnings and markets back into Uber. Starbucks, they had a good earnings yesterday. That's up 0.5%. Cloudflare is down 2%. Zeta's getting hit with the SaaS carnage. Let me pull up the SaaS list. Not a single thing is green. Oracle down 2. Salesforce down 5. Atlassian down 12. Atlassian down 12. You would think they just had a miss on earnings. Snowflake down 7. What is happening, bro? These are not small companies. They don't go down 7 to 8% for fun. Like I can understand 1 or 2, even 3 or 4%. These are big moves. GitLab down 4, Twilio down 5, Intuit down 5, Zscaler down 3, CrowdStrike down 5. Palantir looks like she might be headed to the low 150s right here. Datadog down 5. Oracle down 3. Royal Caribbean, at least that stock's up. Your cruise lines are green. That's up 13%. Lockheed Martin, they had a good earnings. Defense contractors, that's up 7%. That's getting a little bit of love. I don't even know if we can buy the SaaS names right. Like, what the hell is happening? Like, I feel like this has to be a buyable dip, but it's also like, what is happening here? I'm about to pull up Microsoft's PE. It is now trading significantly cheaper than Google. By the way, where's Google? Google got to 346 yesterday. Goog's 338. Goog's is flat. Whole market's going down because of SAP. What did SAP say? Did anyone listen to that call? Like, any of my Europeans understand why this company, like, they missed by like $15 million on earnings? That's not a 15% justified move. What is going on here? Nvidia trying to break 192 and go green. DBB, that's the metals ETF. That's up 5%. We talked about that one yesterday. COPEX, are we still moving? COPEX up 7% on the day as that one continues to go green. Let me check on those COPEX calls. We can at least look at something making us money. All right, dude. See, this is not normal. We bought these calls on Friday, and they're up 90%. Like, this is not normal. I'm not selling it because at this point, I'm interpreting it as a lottery ticket, not a literal lottery ticket, because I do think there's a fundamental thesis with copper. But the way that it's running makes me think that you just hold on for the ride and you just let it play. So I'm not selling at all. But it's also confusing. This should not be up 90% in 4 days. Like, something weird is going on with the precious metals right here. AMD, that's up 1%. Hood is getting hit. Hood is getting hit. Oh boy, that means SoFi is probably getting hit. SoFi is holding on to 2480, but that's still bad. Palantir is also getting hit with the SaaS names. Palantir 3% down. There is a mass exodus of SaaS, which is weird. Like very weird. And I think Microsoft is leading it. Microsoft 432, 10. When's the last time Microsoft had a 10% day? When's the last time Microsoft had a 10% day? Last time it was at this price, May, which was after Liberation Day. We were recovering from Liberation Day. We haven't been at this price in 8 months. SaaS is software as a service. Software as a service companies. Meta losing 730 now, 727. Oh boy, Meta just lost a good chunk of a move right there. I think it holds on. This is weird, dude. This is weird. UNH, that one's up a little bit. VIX is up 6%. Where's Tesla? Tesla, 427. I mean, Tesla being red, I don't think anyone can get too upset about. Numbers weren't the best, but that's what I'm saying. The fact that it was even holding those numbers were good. But if the broad market's selling off right here, then obviously Tesla, Palantir, all these names are going to get hit. Google, I could imagine, could get hit as well. Google, very close to going red. What about Amazon? 241. I mean, look, these prices are very similar to prices we had over the past couple of weeks, right? So it's not like, oh my goodness, Tesla at 426 is so scary, or Google at 338, or NVIDIA at 190. NVIDIA was 180 last week. So it's not something to go crazy about. But the level of velocity of the SaaS sell-off, I don't know if people expected that today. 433 on Microsoft, down 10% on the day. The cruise lines are holding on. But even Meta, like Meta should not be losing 730 like that. 723, dude. What, like, it's still an 8% move. No one can be upset, but it should not be losing that type of a run that quickly. I mean, it almost seems obvious that people stepped in and just took profits as soon as the market opened. Microsoft doesn't look like profit taking, though. Microsoft looks like people are trying to get the hell out. That's what Microsoft looks like, which begs the question, is this an opportunity? It feels like it has to be an opportunity. It's freaking Microsoft. 10% down on what? ServiceNow, 9.5%. That's down. VG is 969. That's up 2%. End of month selling, maybe. I think for software, it feels like more broad sector rotation. I ran down 3%. Amcor is up a little bit. Where's Intel? That had a 10% day yesterday. Intel down 2%. Rocket Lab almost hit 90 yesterday. Rocket Lab back to 87. ASTS at all-time highs yesterday. That stock now below 120, but that was great. Lunar also was hitting some good levels. That's at 23. That's up 1%. HIMS, we are up $30. That's up 5%. I don't see any headline on HIMS, but there might be, given that one's running. Whoa. Is this a big headline? No, this can't be a big headline. China bans software from Palo Alto CrowdStrike. That's a couple weeks ago. I'm seeing it come across my screen again. That wouldn't be the reason for the SaaS ecosystem selling off. Meta got 14 price target hikes today, by the way. Rosenblatt gave them 1144 at the high end. The low end BMO, 730. Meta got upgraded 14 times today. Meta right there, 721. 721 on Meta. Rocket Lab down to VG, up to Google 336. Google's about to go red. SoFi fighting for 25. Palantir, they're taking her down, man. They're taking her down. Oracle 165. We're getting back to May prices. Yeah, last time you had this, May 29th. I don't know, guys. It feels like this is, I mean, this was, you would think the S&P would make a move today higher based on these earnings. Seeing the opposite happen here. Meta losing 720. Again, can't be, if Meta was $705, given it was at 670 for the majority of the last week, I think all of us would be happy, but they showed us 740. which I think got people's hopes up. And, now you see this pretty ugly red candle right there. Russell is up. IWM, that's green. Yep. Small caps are up. Definitely feels like it's algos today for sure. Pounters at July 15th prices. Yeah. Now, again, Palantir is an expensive stock. We all know Palantir is expensive, but it's maintained its expensiveness for a while. But if the entire sector it's in is getting carnaged, it's just tough, right? You have algos come in. I mean, how is Salesforce down 7% today? I'm not the biggest fan of Salesforce, but you don't have that type of a move on no news. And if the news is Microsoft, then I guess they have to wait till Microsoft rebounds. Well, what if Microsoft doesn't rebound for a while? Are these stocks just going to be stuck at these levels? SAP down 15%. I don't know if this is the reason. MasterCard right there, that's up a little bit. They had good earnings. Oh, also the rare earths. Goodness gracious. Critical metals, 12% down. The rare earth hype. I mean, you got to ask yourself today if you believe in the hype. There's definitely a legit thesis, but these stocks pumped heavy. They got a lot of buyers to come in over the past couple of days. You had a lot of good headlines with the Trump administration taking stakes in these companies. And then one thing Trump says yesterday reverses the entire move. So you have to ask yourself, is this really a dip or is this run for the hills because the trade is over? Iran, that's down 3%. As that continues to be down. June says she's buying USAR. Bloom right there, that's down 1.3. T1 Energy, this was at 970 yesterday. That's down 5%. You're getting a lot of these high beta names take a hit. Fluence, this was at 31. That's at 30 today. Ondas down 2%. Might see below 12. Red Cat down 2%. I mean, it makes sense. They all had a big day yesterday, but still, the trend is obviously down as of right now. Apple, at least a little green, 256. IGV, there you go, down 5%. And as silver at the same time hitting new all-time highs, silver is hitting new all-time highs, 108.87 on SLV. Silver's at 120, gold's at 55.80. We didn't even look at Adobe. Adobe is down 5%. I don't know. What do people think? Do you think there's some really big funds that are just pummeling money outside of the software names? This is not retail that's causing 7% on average down in all the software names. S&P lows of the day, 693. Yeah, Path is another SaaS name. It's going to get hit. Down 6% right here. Again, copper breaking out. I don't think copper is breaking out because of something fundamental. I really think it's breaking out because of gold and silver. So there's not some massive headline that's getting everyone to be like, oh my goodness, we have so much shortage of copper. That's a fundamental thesis, but it's not like something happened yesterday to cause this. Just like nothing happened yesterday for silver and gold to go up. Nothing. Literally nothing, other than maybe some geopolitical headlines around Iran that the street's freaking out about. So I think it's just following silver and gold at this point, which is fine. But I don't think there's something that happened that is yes, we can point to this reason as why it's breaking up. And so I think that here's the thing to watch out for. If silver were to go down 5%, let's keep an eye on copper. Let's keep a real eye on copper and see, is it just following it? Because if copper can hold these levels, then it's an actual breakout. It's not just like a catch-up silver trade. So let's keep a real good eye on if silver reverses, which inevitably it has to reverse a little bit, right? Or is this thing just going to go to $250 an ounce for the next year? If it reverses, let's keep an eye. Does everything else reverse with it? Is this just a pegged trade together? Or are we getting some real divergence? And if we're getting some real divergence, I think that's when we buy the shit out of copper. If we're getting some real divergence, that's when there's a fundamental thesis lining up with the shortage, and that's where you go heavy. We got to see if that ends up playing out. Fear and greed. Yeah, let's check that. It was at 63 yesterday. We were almost at extreme greed. We are at 65. So that one's not really changed. The meth heads are cornering the copper market. Oh my gosh. Amit, I'm a noob to options. Could you make money now off those COPEX options, or do you have to wait till expiration? Yes. So I bought these calls for January 2027. They're $100 strike, so they were out of the money. I bought them when copper was 85. Now that copper is 98, the calls are up 94%. They move at a higher beta than the actual stock itself moves, the ETF. And yeah, you can sell them whenever you want. So in fact, selling your calls early before expiration is what most people tend to do. But if you think the stock has a lot more room to go, in this case, and you have a lot left time left on the contract, then you can hold on. Usually people try to get out of their contracts within 60 days of expiration. That's when theta decay hits the hardest. And that's when, if you're not at the strike price of your contract or above the premium you paid for the strike price. So I paid $12 a premium, strikes at 100. So COPEX would have to be $112. If I'm not there by January 2027, the contract will go to zero. But if you're there well before your expiration, you can make a lot of money. So the question is just, can this rally continue? Intel right there, that's down 2%. As that continues to get hit. ASTS trying to go green. NVIDIA 191.40. Yeah, Lockheed Martin's up. Carnival Cruise is up. Royal Caribbean's up. And then Meta's holding on to 720. Everything else is down. Meta right there back to 727. As that's green. Yeah, where's the yen? What's his name? Besant yesterday said we are not interfering with the yen. I think he was lying, but we are right back to 153 on the yen. It spiked up as soon as he said that yesterday, and we're not seeing the yen come down, which is what we would need to see. Where's the 10-year? 10-year, are we still at 4.25? 4.255. 4.255 on the 10-year. SoFi trying to get back to 25. I'm trying to close out all my covered calls on SoFi today, which so far I am up on those 77%. So I'll be happy taking a 80% gain on those. But we got to see if SoFi can still take a move higher. Micron is at all-time highs. Are we? Micron? No, we are. Yeah, you're right. 443. I thought we were at 450 last night. We had 446. 443 on Micron. Memory being the biggest beneficiary of this. Where's Microsoft? Are we starting to see a little bit of a rebound? Microsoft. No, still down 10%. All right, who's buying the Microsoft dip? Who's buying the Microsoft dip? I feel like we have to, right? like if it goes to 420, it's like, okay, we DCA on Microsoft. Like, I feel like we have to, right? It's Microsoft. It's cheaper than Google. The only, I think, bear case, I mean, there's plenty of bear cases, but the big one that I think the street has a reason to be upset about is this stupid OpenAI remaining performance obligations, which just puts a bad narrative on them. But it's still Microsoft. Like, at the end of the day. Also, Nadella's ruthless. Nadella's not letting Sam Altman get away with not paying him his remaining performance obligations. I think of Nadella like a mafia boss, bro. If Altman does not pay those freaking RP, he can get away with not paying it to Larry Ellison. I don't think Nadella lets him survive if he doesn't pay that stuff. Pound to right there, 150, 190. Do a poll on Microsoft. All right, let's do a poll. Dude, I wanted to buy Microsoft last night at 453. Like, I started going through the numbers last night, and I almost pulled the trigger, and then I just told myself, let's just wait till the morning, because you just never know on earnings what happens. And I'm happy I waited. I did not know I would have a 10% correction. Like, this is kind of stupid. Microsoft buying the dip, yes or no? AMPX, that's up 10%. We talked about this a couple days ago. Amprius Tech, 10.6. Tanner did buy the dip yesterday, unfortunately. I think he bought it at like 448. But like, you couldn't blame him, dude. The stock was down 7%. Like, I mean, you can't. He also got the Meta dip at like 640 when Meta actually went down yesterday for like a good 2 minutes before it reversed. So he was pretty quick with it. But Microsoft here, it's kind of crazy. Dell's holding up a little bit. Yeah, Dell's holding up. Seda 1980, Dell 117. Palantir still down. Lending Club down 10%. I don't know if that's going to be bad for SoFi. I hope not, but that stock also got hit yesterday. Celestica, why is that down 10%? They crushed earnings. 88% year-over-year EPS growth. Why is Celestica down 10%? What is this market? Are we dropping on Meta? Let's see if she loses 715. She got close, 716. Nebius, are you buying the dip? Well, Nebius, I don't think is ever a dip. Like 95 is not a dip. This thing was 91 on Tuesday. This thing goes from 90 to 100 every day. I don't even know what Nebius's price action is anymore. So, no, I wouldn't buy the dip on this, but I don't even know if it's a dip. Like, it's just Nebius. I feel like you just have to hold it at whatever price you get it at and wait till it's closer to 150, which is what I think it should be. Oh, we did have this headline this morning as well. U.S. trade deficit widened by the most in nearly 34 years in November, reaching $56 billion amid a surge in capital goods imports. I don't know if Trump wants to see that headline because it's kind of doing the opposite of some of the things that he wanted. But imports increased $350 billion within our trade deficit, which is not necessarily the best. Netflix right here, 83. Netflix goes down. Netflix goes, wow, Microsoft 428, 11% down. Bro. What is happening, dude? What is happening here? Grab is getting what? Okay. Well, Grab's just getting hit by the algos now. 446. Are you kidding me? Where's Hood? Are we at least holding 100? We're holding on to 100 with $2. And then where's Palantir? Oh my goodness, Palantir. She's got 50 cents below 150. Oh boy. OSS down 2. Big Bear down 4. Snap down 3. Who ruined the market for us, guys? Who in the last 24 hours? Is this Nadella's fault? Is this Sam Altman's fault? Is this Zuck's fault? Who can we blame? We're not taking personal accountability today. We need to blame somebody for this shit. Who do we blame for this? No, any headlines? There's no headlines. There's nothing crazy that. Okay, I got one headline right here. China's probably selling U.S. treasuries. Their stake in treasuries fell to $682 billion, the lowest level in 18 years. I don't know if that's enough to tank the market, but I mean, like, duh. We all knew that China was selling treasuries. A lot of people are selling U.S. treasuries, and they're kind of buying something else called gold and silver with the money. So I don't think that's a headline that would hurt the markets, but we know that's happening. Mike, can we blame Nicki Minaj? Oh my gosh. I don't even think it's the yen carry trade either, because I mean, the yen is spiked, but it's not spiked to some dramatic level. Maybe it's the Iran stuff. Clarity Act today. Yeah, you have some voting on crypto. Bitcoin 87.2. Nutella putting a hit on Scam Altman. Oh my gosh, dude. This is just weird. This is weird. And then you got the headline yesterday that Microsoft, Nvidia, and Amazon are thinking of investing in OpenAI. Like, if the market hates OpenAI so much. By the way, why is Microsoft thinking of investing in OpenAI? They already own 30% of it. Like, that's where you start to think, like, what's going on here, bro? You guys don't need to put more money into this. Like, unless you guys are actually that bullish. Which maybe they are, but it's weird if they would want to add so much to it. Government shutdown stuff is unlikely based on some of the reporting we got this morning. Chuck Schumer and Trump starting to come together to a deal. I mean, the shutdown might still happen, but it does not look like this is going to be a 40-day shutdown. So I actually think that's not the reason the market is getting hit so bad. Someone from the EU just tweeted, who is this lady? The EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy says that we are now clarifying Iran's Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. Any regime that kills thousands of its own people is working towards its own demise. Interesting. So you're seeing a little bit of escalation from the EU on Iran, which coincides with these reports that Trump might be getting ready to strike. Maybe that's your reason for why we're seeing some market downside. Salesforce still down 7. Palantir touched 149.78 and now back to 150. Oil. Oh, I think this is the reason. I think this might be the reason. Oil's up 5%. How did we even miss this morning? I don't even think I checked oil. Brent crude's up 5%, the highest day for oil for WTI and Brent in terms of gains since August of 2024. Yeah, this has to be the reason. Now, I don't know why it explains the SaaS carnage in particular, because that's like the real thing that's getting sold off, but this has to be the reason. Oil hasn't gone up 5% in a day in over a year. That's probably the reason why commodities are running as well. We already know natural gas was up 30% this week. Yeah, I think this is the reason, guys. I mean, I saw they were up a little bit in the pre-markets. I didn't see they got up to 5%. Now, again, SaaS getting hit, I guess, is the first sector that is being sold off today for a variety of reasons, but maybe this broader macro catalyst around oil prices is what's leading people to be like, all right, I'm going to sell off the stuff I hate the most, which is SaaS right now. Oil up means the potential of war. I mean, yeah, that's also true. That would ruin this bull market. Throw a little World War III in there. That wouldn't be fun. There's your heat map. As you can see, Microsoft. My goodness, dude. Down 9.7% right there. Well, VIX up 7%. That took the wind out of the momentum that we were having yesterday. I mean, at least if you're in Meta, you're holding on. 720. At least if you're in Meta, you're holding on. Microsoft still down. Micron 438. Apple has earnings today as well. Might not be the best day to report. Where's the S&P? S&P officially down 0.5%. S&P looks like she could fall 1% today if this continues. 691. Dude, we were pushing 7,000 on the futures yesterday. It's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. It's because Powell says he doesn't pay attention to gold. Dude, I mean, if I was Powell, I would have rather not answer that question. For him to say, I think nothing that's happening with gold has to do with the macro and or the U.S. losing credibility was laughable. Like he knows he's wrong there. You cannot tell me gold is adding $1,000 an ounce in the past 4 months. And it has nothing to do with the US dollar as a percentage of foreign currency reserves. It has nothing to do with treasury spiking. Like the only people that can get gold to go from 4,000 to 5,000 is not retail investors, not GLD retail inflows. It's freaking central banks. And they're obviously dumping something that they feel is a worse candidate in their reserves, aka the USD, to buy gold. Yeah, why is Intuit down? Tax season's coming up. Which, by the way, Robinhood rolled out something yesterday for helping you do your taxes. So if you have like $500,000 or more in Robinhood, you can sign up for their concierge tax services, and now they'll do your taxes for you. But Intuit right there, that's down $500. I mean, that's down to $500, down 7%. Bitcoin at 86. Bitcoin is now getting hit as well. Yeah, we talked about stocks compared to gold, and I mean, the chart looks pretty ugly. The fact that it's at S&P's at its lowest level in 12 years when you denominate it in gold, which also probably is the reason why a lot more people are buying gold. Microsoft 426, dude. What did you guys say on the poll? What did we have in the poll? 53% of you said no on the dip on Microsoft. Dude, I want to buy this dip. It looks like a falling knife. It looks like all of SaaS is a falling knife. Now, again, Microsoft's at 3.17 trillion. If it loses another 170 billion in market cap, this will be a below $3 trillion company, which I think is kind of crazy, given it was basically $4 trillion for the past couple months, or at least close to $4 trillion. So, I mean, I have no problem buying it a little bit higher, but I want some confirmation on this thing stopping the carnage. Palantir right there continuously getting hit, 149.48. That's down 5%. Zeta's obviously getting hit because of the SaaS sell-off. SAP, the 10-year treasury is up. SAP down 16%. The government shutdown will screw up taxes. That's true. If the government shut down, we don't have to pay taxes, right? Who do we pay taxes to? There's no government. Ah, ugly. Ugly. Wow. Did not expect the market to open up like that, but there you go. Oil prices up, SaaS down. You get a market that goes red. Tessie, 423. Loses 2%. Lulu's down 3%. Lulu didn't have earnings yet, right? I don't think they had earnings. I don't think the retailers had earnings yet. We still have a couple weeks till that. Why the hell is Rivian green? The world is ending. Let's buy Rivian. Like, what is going on here? Rivian 1524. Hoodie looks like she wants below 100 at this point. First Solar, I think they had earnings. I saw this in the morning getting hit. This one's down 12%. This is not good for Enphase, I would imagine. Enphase, yeah, Enphase down 5%. PayPal losing 53. Why not? This one's actually disgusting because everyone thought it bottomed at 60. At least I thought it was close to a bottom at 60. The fact that it went that much lower. Yep, S&P 1% down. We are getting ready, folks. 689. 689.83. Down 1%. Let me see if I can get any more coverage on what exactly is happening here. After a phenomenal Microsoft and Meta earnings, this is how the market's thinking of it. Trump is going to drag the Iran thing for a while. It was weird yesterday. I mean, I know we were looking at multiple reports over the past couple of weeks that he's getting ready to strike, but for the report to come out yesterday at the time that it did, Microsoft, wow, 424. It hit 423.90 at one point. I think it definitely scared off the market a little bit last night when that came out. VIX up 16. Okay, look. The VIX was... No, VIX is up 9. It's not up 16. Unless I'm reading wrong. VIX should be up 9%. Last time we had double-digit VIX in a day, it was Greenland, and that was a buy the dip. This feels kind of stupid, but it could get worse if the VIX actually does continue to spike. Microsoft right there, 425. Meta, 721. Oh, no, you're right. VIX is up 16. Sorry. Google had it wrong. Yeah, VIX is up. Oh, no, you're right. 15% of the VIX. Okay, so double-digit day on the VIX. Again, last time we had that was your Greenland tariff thing. I mean, January 20th, we were up 34%. That was literally the Monday after Greenland, right? January 20th. Yeah, that was yeah, exactly. That was Tuesday. So we were up 34% that day. We're up half of that right now at 15%. A little bit less than half of that right now at 15%. And I think that comparison is important because it is possible that that 15% could turn into a 30%, and then it becomes, I think, a very obvious buy the dip. Here, yeah, I think this is buy the dip, but I don't know how obvious it is if this VIX continues to go higher. Now, granted, we don't have like a Greenland tariff type of catalyst. I think it's oil prices going up and SaaS being sold off. That feels like the major contributor to volatility, but it's not like Trump said he's going to tariff the entire European Union by 10%. So I feel like today's volatility shouldn't get to the level that it got to last week. Trump did tweet about Jay Powell. He had a long paragraph. He said, Jerome Tule Powell again refused to cut rates. He is hurting our country, national security. I hope they all appreciate what we are doing for the country. The Fed should substantially lower rates right now. Palantir getting hit 5% of the day. Now, again, I will say this once again on Palantir because people need to hear it every time. Palantir has an expensive valuation. I'll say it over and over and over again. They are trading at 91 times sales. They are trading at 50 times forward sales. They are trading at 400 times earnings and 250 forward earnings. The stock has always been expensive. If you bought the stock thinking that it's just a $180 stock, not knowing what $180 implies, I mean, at some point, it's also very integral to understand valuation. So the name has always been expensive. The hard part about a macro drawdown is that when you're an expensive name, you get hit the worst. This is why you're seeing Tesla get hit pretty bad today, because Tesla is a very expensive name. It's always been an expensive name. Now, names can be expensive for a long time, aka Tesla. But that also means when shit goes south, the expensiveness of their multiple also comes into question. You're right, Amit, but it still hurts seeing it down. Yeah. I mean, look, I've held Palantir for a very long time. And the thing, the thing about Palantir that we've been so blessed about as shareholders is that you really didn't have that many drawdowns outside of 2022. Like if you got through 2022 for the past basically 3 years, you've had some mini dips here and there, but it's been a straight line up. At 450 billion market cap where it was 2 months ago, the street probably said, all right, enough is enough. We need to see if this company can grow into the valuation. Obviously, they put up the growth to justify having a premium. It's just they have a really big premium. And the market's going to have to internalize that premium and continue to be okay with it. But when things sell off, things with a high premium obviously get hit. Salesforce right there, still down 7%. Reuters, U.S. strikes may be targeting Iran's ballistic missiles. It looks like Trump is afraid of Iran's military apparatus in regards to ballistic missiles. I mean, the nuclear stuff, about 7 months ago, Trump said we got rid of most of it. If they're targeting ballistic missiles, also, what intelligence do they have from the Iranians that they might be getting ready to launch a ballistic missile? I mean, why are we striking their ballistic missiles unless we think they legitimately might want to launch? Or are they setting up something around regime change, which Trump has talked about? He kind of walked it back after Iran said they were not going to hang people publicly. But maybe that could be part of the plan right here. Crypto, are we getting hit? That's also hurting Robinhood. Yeah, Bitcoin, $2,500 candle down. Oh boy. Red, baby. We are red across the board. Red across the board. Micron goes red as well. Viavi up 14%. This is a drone name, right? Huh. So some of your aerospace and defense names, Ondas getting hit by 6%. See, even the Palantir defense angle is not enough to get this one. Usually when you have these headlines, Palantir actually moves higher because of defense. But it's not even getting that today. Lockheed Martin, that's up 7%. Okay, Joby. Again, Joby's down because of dilution. And look, and Joby's smart to dilute. Why shouldn't they dilute? Their stock trading at a crazy Joby still trades at 425 times sales after the 17% drawdown. So when you're in these types of names, you cannot be mad when they dilute. You really can't be pissed. If anything, if you're a real long-term investor, you want them to raise capital when the stock is that elevated. But it's also going to hurt the price. And that's the risk you take on buying something that's super aggressively priced. And that's exactly what happened with Rich Sector Robotics yesterday. It's up 45%. And then the company said, yeah, we're going to dilute. Now it's down 12%. That's because they have no sales. Yeah, I mean, Joby, Archer. Look, I think Joby's a little bit ahead of Archer, but a lot of these companies right now are still a bit speculative. But if you're in them, you have to be okay with the speculative nature of them. That's why they could give you an asymmetric risk to the upside. to get there, obviously you have to deal with the things that these companies do, like dilution. Nvidia loses 190, 189, 189 on Nvidia. Google right there. Where is Microsoft? Google 330. Microsoft. Okay, a little recovery off 425 back to 428. Where's Meta? Is Meta still pumping? Are we at least getting a Meta pump? 725-ish. It's just panic selling today. I think there is an element of panic selling based on the drawdown. I don't think the drawdown itself is panic. Because what is there to panic for? Like usually when there's a panic sell, there's a headline that is so bad that it causes the panic to be sold. But if this is selling as a result of more selling, then that's partly panic selling, but that's not, you can't characterize the entire move in the VIX here as people being panic hands. It feels more like this has to do with the oil and Iran headline that might not, probably isn't that big of a deal. But that still does not explain to me the like structural rotation out of SaaS today. That to me is the bigger question. That I think that has nothing to do with panic. That has to do with like what funds woke up and called each other and said, we're just going to dump all of our SaaS names today. Because it's not retail. Retail didn't wake up and said, we're selling Palantir, Salesforce, and Adobe. Like that's retail is not enough money. They're probably panic selling a little bit of it right now, which is exacerbating the downside, but it's not at the opening bell. Retail wakes up and gets rid of these SaaS names. Again, government shutdown odds have come down, so I don't think it's the shutdown either. Or is this just what we get after a really good high beta January where stocks went from $2 to $12 and trade at 400 times sales? Like, is this just what the market needed? Didn't feel euphoric in the S&P, obviously. It felt euphoric on some of the other names that have gone crazy. I don't know if that needs to take down the entire market. Silver now going red, 105.48 on SLV here. Let's see if we can get a little bit more coverage on some of the stuff happening here. We had wholesale inventories. Those were up month over month. Those actually beat expectations, which is good. The market doesn't care. Gold just went red. Did we go red? Yeah, 54.20. I mean, gold is still up 2% on the day. Silver. Okay, silver went from 121 to 116. Gold went from 55.40 to 54.08, which means, let's check copper. Huh. Copper's not going down at the same time. Am I looking at this wrong? Or are we seeing a little bit of divergence? Copper's holding 634. Gold and silver just went down. I think this is literally at its highs, right? No, wait, hold on. It was at, oh, nope. I was looking at it wrong. It was at 655. Okay, so you are seeing a decline. There you go. I didn't zoom out. 655 to 634. Yeah, guys, it's moving with silver and gold. I'm sorry. As much as I want there to be a fundamental thesis on copper, which I think there is, the risk of owning any precious metal is just like the risk of owning an altcoin with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin tops out, so will your altcoin, no matter how much you have a thesis on avalanche. It will fall down the avalanche if Bitcoin ends up topping. I think that's the issue with copper and a lot of precious metals, which doesn't mean you can't go long. It just means you have to understand the risk here. And if gold and silver are already so high, if the risk to them topping is higher than the risk to the altcoins, aka alt precious metals, could be topping as well. Does Mitt still think Michael Burry is wrong? Yes. Did we see those Meta earnings? A red day in the stock market does not mean that Michael Burry is correct about AI being a bubble. Like, let's hold on here. Let's just wait a second. Like, A red day in the stock market does not mean that Meta growing earnings at 30% as a $2 trillion company or Microsoft growing net income at 60% means that AI is a bubble. Like we can't give Burry the he was right comments for Microsoft being down 10% in a day, especially after they put up the best quarter they've had in history. Not to mention, this dude is long GameStop during the, like, well, he bought GameStop at 24. It's down 3%. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like, of course, if Microsoft falls 10%, GameStop's not going to survive that. So if he is right about this AI being a bubble, GameStop's going to zero or close to zero. If Nvidia goes to 100, GameStop's not going to be at $22. And if it is, I will give him all the credit in the world. If GameStop actually holds up through a AI meltdown. But I think that's unlikely. BM&R is probably getting hit today. BM&R, yeah, down 8%. That's also ugly. Also very ugly. Today's action reflects people digesting that the chart showing the gauge we used to measure productivity is totally off. That could, I think that's a broader economic theory you're pointing to around productivity, which could very well be true. I don't know if that's the interpretation of why the market's selling off today. I think the easier argument to make here is around Iran and oil. I don't know if everyone woke up and said, yeah, productivity is not actually at the level that we think it is. We're selling off everything. Maybe. Definitely might have some impact, but this feels like a lot more headline driven around oil. Gold is selling off right here. Oxy, that's up. All right, so some oil prices are up. Let's get a little bit more coverage on some of the macro stuff. We'll keep going from there.
Double dissent. It wasn't just Stephen Myron who dissented, the governor. It was also Governor Chris Waller, who is one of the 4 candidates to be Fed chair. And so after that, both I think the Besson comments and then the Waller dissent, we saw the Calciads move up.
What about?
I know nobody knows anything, so it's silly, but they move up.
Besson himself, who many would think Trump would be most comfortable with, even though I think it's been made clear Besson doesn't necessarily want the job. He likes being in Treasury.
I know there's still those that are holding out hope. Neil Dutta, for instance, of Renaissance Macro, is always saying Besson would be the best choice. I think that Besson has earned so much respect from Wall Street, the investor community, but also from the president. And Besson in his public comments has said that he is really happy where he is and he'll be closer to the president this way, which he appreciates and is doing a lot of work. So he's taken himself out. And when he said 4 candidates, I mean, he didn't name who they were, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily thought to be the he's necessarily thought to be.
I mean, there was a time prior to his taking the Treasury job that he was thought to be potentially in the running for Fed at some point. So
yes, yeah. and you know, maybe one day, maybe he would want to do that. But I think clearly he's pretty happy and very comfortable in his role, answering questions and really fiery answers on everything from sentiment. Said maybe you'll see it in consumer, but it has not bled into the B2B business, hasn't showed up in their business overall, and also said that they focus really locally on some of their markets where they try to be a local presence. And then finally, you know, I asked him about quantum, which they have a quantum computer, said, when is that going to actually show up in results? He said 2029. So have to wait a little bit for that. But clearly the quantum applications are starting now. I think that they're happy to have others sort of using their computers with other software to pilot it and work out some of the issues, and then he thinks it's
stocks obviously had a very strong year. We can see there. I'm sorry, can you go back? What does that mean that Red Hat is a contributor but not a driver of software growth?
It used to be the main driver. I mean, they used to see Red Hat growth of like 20-30%, and that was what made or break the software quarter and the overall quarter. And I think now
quantum won't contribute to the earnings till 2029. Is that hurting the quantum stocks today? This for IBM. Yeah, the quantum stocks down 5%. All right, so state of the markets. Oil's up 5%. Iran strikes becoming more mainstream news. Meta's holding on to its pump. Everything else going down, trying to find a floor. Palantir bouncing a little bit from 147. Hood bouncing a little bit from 100.8. S&P bouncing a little bit from 689. That could be a fake bounce, but if it has a little bit more juice associated with it, maybe it's not. And then Microsoft right here at 428, up from 423. It's ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Do you hate GameStop? No, I have zero emotions about GameStop. In fact, I think the cash that they have on hand, they can actually do a lot of stuff with it. My entire critique of Burry being long GameStop is that I don't know how you can be long GameStop but then be bearish the entire stock market. I could care less about GameStop. I don't care. I have no hate in my body for GameStop. I just don't get how you can say Nvidia's a bubble. It's going to collapse. Everything's hyped up. And then GameStop is your take. Like, it's contrarian. It'll sell some Substack subscriptions. That's for damn sure. But, and then what's on GameStop's balance sheets? Bitcoin. What does Michael Burry think is the new Tulip Bubble 2.0? Bitcoin. Like, like none of it makes any sense, dude. Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what the hell he's doing. He's trying to get attention. And so that's my only critique of why he's long GameStop. It doesn't make sense to me. But if GameStop holds up when this entire market collapses, then he'll be right. Which maybe that happens. Palantir right there, 149.38. Verizon is green. CBS reporting more warships coming into the Middle East. Oh boy. I mean, I think if we want a headline, it's got to be this Iran stuff. U.S. carrier strike group enters Middle East region after Iran commander warns U.S. its forces to have finger on the trigger. Also, weren't there some public comments from Iran last night about how they will defend themselves, I think? Yeah, okay, so this is what they said. Last time, this is what the Iranian foreign ministry said. Last time the U.S. blundered into wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, it squandered over $7 trillion and lost more than 7,000 American lives. Iran stands ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and interest, but if pushed, and they put this in caps, I'll show you right here. If pushed, it will defend itself and respond like never before. All right. I guess that's definitely going to keep escalating some of these issues as well. I mean, again, Iran talks shit all the time. I don't think their military necessarily compete with the United States, but the escalation is not necessarily the best. Now, again, the geopolitical dips always get bought in the stock market. Like if you've been around long enough, they never really hold into something meaningful that lasts for longer than like a couple of days. So if that's really the reason for this, but it still doesn't explain the SaaS carnage. Maybe it explains the broader market sell-off, not the SaaS carnage. Salesforce down 8%. That still is not an explanation. ServiceNow down 11% on the day as well. Zeta's at 19. It's likely still the yen, but the yen hasn't spiked from yesterday. Like if the yen was at like 155, I could understand. We're not necessarily there. Nathan, thanks for the super chat. Any ideas on the Carvana fraud drama and JPM refuting Gotham short report? I didn't read the short report, but the analysis in the report, Carvana actually rebounding today. Wow, it was at 380. Now it's at 420. I don't think this stock is like indestructible. The amount of shorts that have tried to take Carvana down. Yesterday, they said they were misreporting revenue by $1 billion. That argument has been said like 17 times in the history of Carvana short. Jim Chanos had that argument for the past 2 years. I mean, it doesn't work as an argument to hold it down. So I understand why it's rebounding here today. But I just don't know enough about Carvana to fully refute it. Stock was at 470 yesterday, fell to 370. Now it's at 420, which is not a horrible rebound here. So yeah, in terms of Carvana, I don't think the short report has that much credibility, but then again, this has been the same argument they've been saying for a long time. Micron going green again. Tesla still red. Palantir 149. We need to get that back over 150. VIX is down to 11%. It was up 16. So we're seeing the VIX start to at least come down a little bit, which means we should see the most beaten up names start to get a little bounce. Microsoft over 430 would be nice to see. Silver, are we going down? Oh, wow. Look at that on SLV. Look at that red candle. That looks like it happened in like seconds. 107 to 100. That's down 5%. I bet you COPEX is down. COPEX is down. 97 to 93. I really do think these precious metals are all correlated, guys. And if you're buying one, you're basically buying the other. It's not literally buying the other, but if you're buying one of them, if you're buying an altcoin, you're essentially buying the crypto markets, and you're hoping the crypto markets do well for your altcoin to do well, because Dogecoin's not going to pump if Bitcoin's not pumping. Silver, look at that, 7% down. It was just at 100. Now it's 97.50 in front of us. SLV just got halted on LSE. Let me see if it got halted on Robinhood. Let me see. Did it get halted? Didn't get halted on Webull. On Robinhood, it didn't get halted yet. 8% down, though, is pretty quick. Maybe if silver and gold dump, stocks will go up. Need the money to leave the metals and go back into earnings growth. Gold down 4%. Hold on. We were at 5,400. 5,220. Bro, this is incredible. This was the price it got to last night during Meta earnings, after then spiking to 5,400. Why though? What's the news? I mean, I don't think there is news to see that type of a retracement. I think that's legitimately funds dumping it. Quite frankly, what could have happened, which we went through this theory before, is I'll just pick on JP Morgan, for example. JP Morgan bought up a lot of gold yesterday. Enough to, wow, 51.22. You guys just saw that on gold? That just dropped $80 in like 2 seconds. They could have bought a lot of gold last night, made everyone think that gold's going crazy. And then, right when more money starts to come in to go higher, they dump it. It's happened. It happened time and time again. In fact, JP Morgan had to pay a $920 million fine. It's called spoofing for doing that back in 2020. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but when you look at these price actions, it feels like that's what's happening. Because the geopolitical instability is not slowing down based on what we're looking at this morning. So gold and silver should be going up because they thrive on bad news. And we've had bad headlines this morning around it. It's because Peter Schiff has been brag posting all morning. Dude, this guy, I mean, you got to give him some credit. He took a lot of shit over the past couple of years. He ended up being right. But yeah, no one likes someone who constantly has to say they're right. I feel like the world has a funny way of coming back at you when you constantly brag. Like, it's not how it always turns out. 92.97 right there. Usually is not the best thing to keep doing that, because also when you're bragging that much, you're getting way too cocky, and usually that means that there's maybe a little bit too much excitement there. Salesforce down 8% now. Lows of the day on Salesforce. ServiceNow down 12. This does not make, like, I'm not an expert on SaaS names, but anyone who saw those earnings knows this is not justified. Not on those earnings. Like, they're guiding 20% growth. They just did 20%. Operating margins are up. This is not some crazy expensive company. At least I don't think it is, based on some of the metrics I'm looking. Maybe there's certain metrics you can point out that look expensive, but this is a deeper issue. Adobe as well, 286, down 4.5%. I don't know. Additional U.S. Navy destroyer has arrived in Middle East region as per U.S. official. All right, I guess this Iran strike is happening. We don't know when it's happening, but it seems like That's the score for today. Still red right here. Trying to get a couple other headlines. We can pull something up. Senate Republican leader says shutdown talks going in the right direction as per Political. Okay, that's good. We need those to definitely go in the right direction. Meta 716. Meta's losing 720, which means Microsoft just lost 428. 425. There's another little leg down. Everything feels like a falling knife today. Everything. But yeah, the VIX right back up to 15%. Spiked up again. Dropped a little bit. And now that's why you just saw Meta and Microsoft get hit. Ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Again, these Iran headlines seem to be the reason for this. It's the most I have here to see. We do have a representative who bought some Iran. About 15,000 worth of Iran. Representative Dale Whitney Strong. I'm sure more of you guys have a bigger stake in Iran than this guy does. But Iran right there down 7%. As that one's at Coinbase under 200. Wow. That's down 5%. U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick to take over Commerce's venture arm and is recruiting from banks and PE firms for projects. Okay, so Lutnick's going to be managing a bunch of money, I guess. Shouldn't Iran news be bullish for Palantir? Usually it is. Usually the geopolitical stuff is very bullish Palantir, but I mean, today you're just seeing the total opposite, down 5% right there. MicroStrategy's got to be getting hit today, right? MicroStrategy, 9% on MSTR. I think it's a Japan carry trade unwind. You know, this is actually a good point. So we talked about this 2 days ago. If the Fed were to print a ton of dollars and start buying up yen to strengthen the yen against the dollar to help Japanese bond yields, which would be very good to stabilize the overall credit markets, and that would eventually be good for the stock market. You need a little bit of a clearing event like the yen carry trade in August of 2024 in order for that to happen. We talked about this on Sunday night. Besant was asked yesterday, are you doing anything? He said no. I mean, maybe not yet, but they're definitely thinking of it, that's for sure. And so that could cause a sell-off. The problem with that theory, along with the problem of just like, oh, the technical said that everything was going to dump, is that there are certain sectors that are getting hit the worst today. Like, this is not a broad scale drawdown of everything. This is SaaS in particular getting hit the most, which is, I think, partly one of the reasons why everything is going down. Then you've got your crypto. Then you've got your metals, which like had the biggest run they've ever had in the past 10 years yesterday. But you also have other things that are holding up. Like, why is Carvana up 2% on the day? If it was a full yen carry, trade, if people remember August 2024, everything was red. There was not a single thing you could find that was green. It was almost like Liberation Day. There's pockets of green. Like Lam Research shouldn't be up. MasterCard shouldn't be up. There's Caterpillar, IBM. These stocks should not be up today if we are unwinding the yen carry trade in order to eventually stabilize the yen, which I think is actually a good thing, even if it's a little bit of short-term pain. But you're not necessarily seeing that yet. So to me, it feels like there's more than just a yen carry trade argument here. Also, I think we would see the USD over JPY go a lot lower. Right now, it's still at 153 if that was definitely happening. Yeah, there's lots of different green pockets that are there right now. And there shouldn't be any if it's that type of a sell-off. Having said that, as we move throughout the morning, more and more stuff is going red. Microsoft 426. And again, the SaaS sell-off in particular to me feels like there's something deeper going on. Because you're not seeing it in semis, right? I mean, let's pull up the semis. The average SaaS stock is down 7% today, which is crazy to say. Semis, yeah, it's 2%. Intel down 2, Qualcomm down 1, Taiwan Semi down 2.6, Marvell's getting hit a little harder, down 4. Dell's barely down. Micron's down 1.5. Lam Research is actually green. Nvidia's down 2. AMD's down 3. ASML barely down. I mean, this feels like a more SaaS specific thing. Amazon, are we dipping? Amazon is dipping 2% down. S&P officially down 1%, by the way. 687 on the S&P. 687. Palantir 147. Yeah, why is HIMS green, dude? Definitely need some HIMS pills for this market, but HIMS is also, barely holding on to its green. It's down from its 5% move. I ran down 6%. Palantir 148.11. SaaS, hyperscalers, and AI. Yeah, exactly. And then good old Hoodie. She wants to see below 100, dude. She wants it. If she can bounce off this, that'd be nice, but VIX, okay, VIX just hit the high of day, 19, 16% up. Until that VIX calms down, we are going lower. Until that VIX calms down, we are going lower. VIX right there, 19% up on the day. SoFi, yeah, where the hell is SoFi? SoFi 2430. Kind of sucks. If they have earnings tomorrow, they can at least get to 2650. People will be happy at this point. But Noto's got a little bit of a tough macro to report these earnings now. Netflix, Nvidia 187. Netflix 82.44. I don't see any coverage on the Iran stuff. It's almost like trying to see if any of the networks are using this as an argument or explaining why they think we're going down. We got some Tesla coverage. Let's pull that up, and I'll try to get some more headlines.
Lines that now are going to be discontinued that have been building the Model S and the X. They're going to use those to manufacture them. Let's bring in Steve Wesley. He's the founder of Wesley Group, former Tesla board member. Steve.
Yeah, why are they, dude? It's like they're not really acting like Microsoft is down 11%. You would think that would be breaking news and they'd be trying to cover it. They're talking about Tesla, dude. Tesla losing 420 right there, 419. Here you go. Ugly day. Bitcoin below 85,000. Here's the heat map. The only thing that's red is really the financials here. Is this because of OpenAI? Can we just blame Sam Altman for this? It has to be OpenAI, right? Has to be OpenAI. AMD down 3%. Oracle down 5%. Oracle feels like it's a data center thing and it's a OpenAI thing. And then Microsoft feels like it's a continuation of OpenAI. But yes, it also feels like Iran. Millions of puts just hit the tape on SPY. Strike is 650. Expiry is February 20th. You got about 4 million of premium coming in on those puts. S&P lows of day 1.2% down. 1.2 hood below 100. All right, there it is. I've been mentally preparing myself to see that for a few weeks now. There it is. 99.92. 99. I mean, look, if Bitcoin's going to tank below 85 today, if hood's been correlated with Bitcoin for the past 2 years, it's obviously going to get hit today. Bitcoin 84. It's a $4,000 candle down, folks. $4,000 candle down. So what do you think is the main reason for this? Oil. Yes, I think oil prices are the highest they've been. But look at it, dude. So we just looked at oil prices being up 5%, the worst since August 2024. They just lost 2%. Now they're up 2.3. So they just lost 50% of the move that they made in the past 24 hours. So is it even oil as the reason that we're pointing to? Like, can it? Like, yeah, it can be oil, but you would think if oil prices just went down by 2%, that would take the VIX down a little. If this was the reason for the volatility, well, if the volatility and the oil prices are going down, then the arbitrage on that should allow the VIX to go down, but the VIX is going up. So it's hard to say it's oil. VIX is at 17% up on the day, 17.4. Then it goes to the Iran headlines, but if the Iran headlines were causing oil to go up and oil just went down, then theoretically the Iran headlines shouldn't be interpreted as that big of a deal. So then can we even say it's the Iran headlines? That's the easy thing to point to, Iran and oil. But if those are not the answers, then, I mean, anyone else's guess is as good as mine here. Can it be possible Amazon goes down to 220? Amazon was at 226 on January 21st. It is absolutely possible Amazon can get back to 220. I don't think it will, but like it was there 8 days ago. So yes, it is possible. Triple V keeping us alive right here. Thank you for the $200 super chat. We're gonna need that one today. Thank you, Triple V. Appreciate it. I can imagine his portfolio is taking a little bit of a hit today. Everyone's portfolio is probably taking a hit today. I mean, if the only thing that's keeping you safe today is if you're all in Meta, otherwise, I don't know how people are in red today, or unless you load it up on puts strategically. But you either shorted tech, you shorted the metals, or you're all in Meta. If you're not in any of those three situations, and I'm sure there's probably some other scenarios, but if you're not in any of those three situations, you're probably feeling a little bit of pain today. Bitcoin right there, 84,400. Thank you, Triple V, for the super chat. Appreciate you being here. Well, one of the ways to short silver, again, I see a couple of you guys saying it. The ZSL, we talked about it yesterday. That should be up right now. Yeah, it's up 16%. ZSL, this thing had, 339 million shares of volume today. It's been 2 hours since the market opened. Yesterday, it had 224 million shares of volume. So it's done almost double the volume in an hour and a half. Goodness, this thing's up 16% right here as silver fell off. Where's silver? SLV 98.49. That's down 7%. Close my BMNR covered calls today. Nothing has changed in silver and gold. Well, what did change is the price, right? Like both of those things went nuclear last night. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously silver being down 7% here, it was up 15% yesterday. So I get it. But what changed is that the price action has been just incredible to witness. S&P right there down 1.2, lowest of the day at 686. Let's check the 10-year and see if that's holding on. If that's spiking up. 10-year, okay, it's relaxing a little bit. 4.229 down from 4.25. Do you think the SaaS exacerbated sell-off is just a bunch of retail getting margin called on top of funds selling off? So that's a good argument. The problem is, and let me know in the chat, how many of you guys, how much of retail do we literally think was leveraged SaaS? I can understand retail being leveraged crypto. I can understand retail being leveraged silver, gold. I can understand retail being leveraged Mag 7. People were leveraged Salesforce and Adobe? Really? So I don't think it's the margin call in general today could be a reason why retail's selling, and that's causing like everything else to sell off. But I don't think retail was leveraged Adobe and then Adobe selling off, and now they have to pay back the margin on their Adobe, so they have to sell off their Adobe at a loss. Because who the hell was buying Adobe on margin? Like, who the hell is buying ServiceNow? Like, I understand buying Palantir on margin. I understand buying Silver on margin. I understand buying Microsoft on margin. You tell me people are buying Datadog on margin? So I hope we didn't get that levered up on SaaS. But yes, that is a theory that's possible. It is possible. Retail leverages on everything. That's fair. But Adobe, though? Like Salesforce? Who woke up and said, I'm going to take a margin loan and buy some freaking Salesforce? I mean, you're going to have to be really confident Salesforce is going up. Really confident. So is it fear of war drama? Yes, that is the official headline. I think could be the reason, if we want an easy reason for why the market's selling off. Fear of war drama. But realistically, I honestly don't know, because that headline doesn't even match up that well to some of the corresponding price action here. It was Steve. It was definitely Steve. Steve freaking loaded up 1 million of Salesforce on margin. That's what messed everything up. I took margin to buy Iren. See, I can understand that. Iren, CoreWeave, Nebius, these are very high-flying names. The point of margin, quite frankly, is to see growth in the thing that you're borrowing money to buy so they can sell it quickly, pay back the loan, and keep the difference. I mean, that's how a lot of people strategically use margin. And Iren is a quick mover, right? So like people say, all right, I'll borrow some money, I'll buy it, I'll leave it for a week, it'll go up 2%, I'll sell it. Like that's what a lot of people do. But who the hell is doing that on Adobe and Salesforce? Like these are not the names I think that would get that much margin. Don't we get a vote on government shutdown? Well, we, the citizens, don't get a vote. Our elected officials get a vote, and that should be happening on Saturday night. But again, based on the headlines this morning, it looks like the shutdown is not happening. Schumer and Trump have made good progress. That's from Politico. Senate Republican leader Thune said that we're making good progress. I don't think the shutdown fears are the reason for this. Also, the shutdown fear should have been priced in 4 days ago. So for people to randomly wake up on Thursday and be like, oh, there's a shutdown. Like we knew that 4 days ago. Why didn't we see the sell-off 4 days ago? So I don't think that's the reason. But it wouldn't help if we have a shutdown. The crypto bills today, well, that should be good for crypto. Why is Bitcoin about to go below 84,000 if they're voting on some crypto shit? There's just a lot more questions than answers today, quite frankly. A lot more questions than answers. Falling Knife, thank you for the $200 super chat. Appreciate you, man. There are definitely many falling knives today. Like it's kind of hard to be excited to buy any dip right here, as it's just a little confusing for why these knives are falling. But Microsoft still 425 as that knife continues to fall. The crypto bill might not pass. Yeah, but is that really going to tank crypto? I mean, like, it's not good for crypto, but is that like a $5,000 candle down for Bitcoin? Is the entire, like, again, I've kind of refused that narrative. People are like legislative regulatory frameworks are what we need for crypto to go back to the moon. I'm like, dude, have you looked at gold and silver? This has nothing to do, in my opinion, with legislation. I think that's a weird excuse to justify crypto being down. This has to do with the market not wanting to allocate to digital gold and choosing to be in hard metals. Because the theory on Bitcoin has always been infinite money printing, currency debasement, buy an asset that is finite, that will only have 21 million, right? Like we can go through the whole thing again, but that's the thesis. I don't think the thesis is regulatory frameworks for stable coins. Like no, like that's, you can't convince me that's the reason that Bitcoin's below 100,000. And so if it's not about regulatory frameworks and it's about debasement, the market has picked gold over Bitcoin. Now the market might rotate out of gold to Bitcoin, but we haven't seen that happen yet. Yeah, Bitcoin is totally failing as a monetary hedge. Even though I really do believe it is one of the better monetary hedges that's out there. It's stupid to say that with gold being at these levels, but I still think the fundamentals of why people get orange pilled in the first place is real. It's just, the price action hasn't caught up to that. Small caps down 1.2, Nebius down 8. Is Zeta at 19 a good entry? Yeah, but again, I think it's a falling knife right here. Like Zeta below 20 is it's a $4.5 billion company growing at 34%, price of sales of 3. It's not an expensive name, but it's in a sector right now where Salesforce is not expensive here. I don't love Salesforce, but anyone with half a brain can tell you Salesforce and Adobe are cheap stocks. They might be cheap for a reason, but at some point, cheap becomes really cheap. And I think even Microsoft become cheap, significantly cheaper than Google today, 11% down. But there is an overhang of SaaS right now on all these names. Even Path. Look, I don't love Path, but dude, Path down 6%, $13. This thing was $18 a couple weeks ago. I don't think this one necessarily deserves to be at 4.5 times sales. OSS below 10. Well, this is obvious. These are microcaps. Gotta get hit on a day like this. Robinhood 99.60, down 3%. Axon had a crappy earnings in the summer. They've continued to get hit. Axon is kind of a SaaS name too. I know they sell body cameras, but there's a lot of software that they're making most of their margins on that connects to the body cameras. So I guess you could say that's a SaaS. That's down 6%. And then SoFi, is that still getting hit? SoFi almost below 24. Let's see if we can get some coverage on this sell-off and see what people are saying here. All right, let's pull this up.
Bring in Sam Stovall today, CFRA Chief Investment Strategist. Talk about, one, Sam, all of these wild swings, and two, whether or not there's a 30,000-foot view that maybe we're missing.
Hey, Carl, good to talk to you again. Well, I think what's been going on is that the earnings have been coming in pretty strong. Right now, expectations are for Q4 25 to post a 9.6% rise. That's versus the 7% that was expected at the end of the quarter. We've also seen 7 sectors with upward revisions to this quarter earnings, but also we're looking for 9 of these sectors having upward revisions to 2027 estimates. So it's not that analysts are giving up on the companies. I think that because stocks are priced to perfection, that they want to receive perfection from the companies that are reporting, like with Microsoft missing in terms of cloud, with other companies, they don't really beat the whisper numbers, then people take some profits.
Right. In the battle, Sam, between large and small cap, the Russell had been outperforming for a few weeks. And then this week, until yesterday, was pacing for its worst underperformance since November. Who do you think's winning that battle overall?
Well, the small caps are most attractive, in my opinion, based on a 20-year relative PE ratio. They're trading at a 30% discount to the S&P 500. But in a sense, it's almost like pulling petals from a daisy. Small caps will outperform, small caps won't outperform. Really sort of as it relates to the Fed, with Q3 GDP being up 4.4%, with the Atlanta Fed's GDP now at 5.4%, with inflation remaining fairly sticky and expectations that the Fed won't cut rates until June at the earliest. I think that investors are saying, let me take some short-term profits in small caps and focus on where the earnings growth happens to be right now.
What's interesting is gold is reversed lower here too during the session. It's down 2% and the dollar's gone higher, and all these correlations are a little bit thrown off. The March higher in gold, what does it signal to you? And is there anything to take away from it for equities?
Sure, Sarah. Well, I think that the reason we're seeing a bit of a decline is just take a look at the chart, and the price went parabolic, and nothing maintains that kind of trajectory. So I think investors are just taking some near-term profits at this point. Certainly because of trade tensions, I think central banks around the globe are focusing more on the precious metal as a store of value. The decline in the value of the U.S. dollar, because gold is priced in dollars, had offered a lot of support for the precious metal, and also just the momentum itself. Nobody wants to be left behind, so FOMO does affect precious metals as much as it does stocks.
As for energy, Sam, oil at one point today was up 15% for the month. I think every component of S&P Energy is above the 200-day equal weight, kind of breaking out of a multi-year range.
Microsoft 423, VIX high of day 20% up. No end in sight yet, folks. Very little bounces across the board, but we are still seeing a good chunk of red. If we can get that S&P back to 688, we might have a little bit of room to work with. Microsoft, 424. Bottomed at 423.30 so far today. I think, this reminds me of November, where it was like none of us knew why this was happening. I think like people are fine with seeing red, but people seeing red without understanding why it's red is always more annoying. And in November, remember the day after NVIDIA earnings, which they absolutely destroyed, that was when the 5% move on the S&P started. And no one really knew why. And then by Thanksgiving, it kind of cleared up and it was like a week of pain, but I don't think we're in a 5% drawdown territory for the S&P, but we're definitely in a, hey, what exactly is happening territory. Yeah, we're still positive for the week. That's also fair. We're still positive for the week. There's been a glitch. There's been a glitch. Would you buy Microsoft or Google right now? I mean, dude, Microsoft just got way cheaper than Google. The fear, though, with Microsoft is, again, they have this freaking OpenAI headwind, whether it's justified or not. Google just, what more can you ask from Google? Waymo, Apptronics, Search, Gemini growing like crazy, GCP. There's just so much to love about Google. Got Berkshire now on your side. So I really don't think, I don't know which one, if I had a gun to my head, if I'd say which one outperforms this year, I think it's Google. Because I think just Google has a better pathway to get the street on its side. And Microsoft, quite frankly, for the past couple of years has had a hard time getting the street to buy the stock. With all the price targets, it got to 550 for a month in July last year. And then it went right back to being stuck in purgatory. But Microsoft's cheaper at these levels. Gold and silver, are those still getting hit? Gold, yeah, still down. And by the way, I really am not liking the copper price action with gold and silver. I really don't like to see it just go up and down. At that point, you might as well buy gold. And what's the point of buying copper? If it's literally just going to move with gold and silver. And again, I think there's a fundamental thesis on copper, but my fundamental thesis means nothing if the price is correlated to gold and silver. So I don't know. It's confusing. It's very, very confusing right here. EU representative says EU today blacklisted Russia for risk of money laundering. Okay. I feel like they've done that many times before as well. That's the story with crypto and Bitcoin, yeah. Oh, same with BMNR, right? BMNR is also associated with, if Bitcoin doesn't go up, ETH doesn't go up. If ETH doesn't go up, then freaking BMNR is not going to easily go up. 27 right there on BMNR. Celeste, I don't know why the hell Celeste goes down, dude. 15%, dude. Celeste got a great earnings. A lot of these companies had huge earnings. It's the beard. It's definitely the beard. There's The little rubble on my face is causing all of this. No, Celestica crushed. They beat and raised. Revenue's up 44% year over year. EPS is up 70% year over year. What is the market upset about? Now, this stock was one of the best performing stocks in the market last year. So once again, this could be a Robinhood thing where it's like it went up a lot last year, and the market's like, we like you, but we liked you a lot last year, and we don't like you enough anymore. It's still up 200% over the past year. So maybe that could be a broad argument. But when you put up those types of earnings, you're not supposed to see that type of a decline. It's weird. Banking and tech is drawdown from the index today. That is correct. Is there a Robinhood headline, by the way? I think I saw a Robinhood headline. Are they investing in some company today? Robinhood is investing in a crypto trading platform, digital asset trading platform, Talos. They just closed the 45 million Series B. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Robinhood probably put a couple million into this. I've never heard of this platform, but that shouldn't be that much of a big deal. We liked you a lot last year, but we don't like you anymore. The response I get every time I talk to a chick in 2026, as per Matt Money. You know, Matt, I think you just got to show her the VG position. You talk about your favorite position. For me, it's Palantir and Hood. Favorite position. I'll show you my favorite position here. Maybe not today because it's a little red, but still. Zeta right there, down 6% on the day. Microsoft still 423. Oh, all right, guys, I got to go. It sucks to leave in the middle of this, but I have a really busy day. We have a meetup on Sunday. I got to get a lot of shit done before that. I have to go to the city at 1 o'clock. I really don't want to leave because I want to figure out what's happening. But quite frankly, I don't think there is an answer to what's happening. You're not allowed to. Dude, I really don't want to leave, but I feel like for the next hour, we're just going to be staring at red. And like, we've done that for the past 2 hours with no real explanation on why. Microsoft losing the lows, 423 here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this sucks. Keep the channel running. We will behave. Oh my gosh. No, look, I'll be back on the close. We got Apple. Chris is also going to be at my apartment. He'll be coming from Georgia, so he'll probably make an appearance on the market close. We'll get to talk to him about Meta, what's going on in the markets. I mean, at least Meta's holding on to its pump. It's not 740, but 718. You got to be happy. We're seeing a 7 handle on Meta, which is good to see. If you're new to the channel, we do a market open, market close every day. Some of you guys might have been looking for why the markets are down today. The answer I can give you is oil prices are up, even though they're not up as much as they were in the morning, and more escalation around an Iranian strike from the U.S. is potentially leading to the market sell-off. I do not understand why SaaS names like Microsoft and ServiceNow, Microsoft losing 423, now 422.50, are selling off today, but it's affecting Palantir, it's affecting Zeta, it's affecting all the names in the SaaS ecosystem. And then gold and silver, I struggle to say they've topped because there looks like there's a lot of demand, but obviously you can see silver recovering a little bit right there from 96 to 101. Those are incredibly volatile. And that volatility might be thriving off some of the headlines we're seeing today from geopolitics. Siege, thanks for the super chat. Help me. My account is down. You know, sometimes I don't think anyone should be panic selling today. Now, I also don't think people should be running to buy the dip today, just because there's not that much of an explanation for why exactly we're getting hit. Now, quite frankly, on the contrary, that could be a reason to buy the dip, because if there's no explanation, then it's all BS and like it's just the market being stupid. But for context, I wanted to buy the dip on Microsoft at 450 last night. Then I wanted to buy it at 445 in the pre-markets. Then at 4:35, I put the poll on who's buying Microsoft, and now we're at 4:21. Sometimes it's just a falling knife. And you got to maybe buy another day even higher than the absolute lows, but at least know you're not buying something that's crashing. I mean, a 12% drawdown on what was a $3.8 trillion company. We haven't seen that in a while in the Mag 7. And so there's something weird happening today that I don't have a full answer to, but hopefully we had a chance to potentially figure it out. All right, folks, that's it for me. Thank you all for being here. Ugly day. This stuff happens. We had good earnings yesterday. This is how the market's reacting. I will be live on the market close. We'll have Apple earnings. We have a bunch of other stocks that have earnings. We'll try to analyze everything that's going on. Apple, Visa, SanDisk, and Western Digital, big memory names. So tons of different earnings. KLAC, Deckers. We will try to get through all that. And then we'll keep going from there. All right. I got to get out of here. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody.